And let's move on quickly. It appears the more the dust over the fiercely contested 2023 presidential election tries to settle, the more some aggrieved participants stir trouble about the outcome. But a coalition of civil society organizations under the aegis of Middle-Belt Pan Nigerian Forum has called on the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the election, Peter Obi, to accept the result as it reflected the wishes of the people. The coalition also expressed disappointment with Obi's criticism of the electoral process, noting that it is wrong to undermine the country's institutions, including the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Supreme Court, which validated credibility of the elections. Adeoye, let me start with you. Another advice going out to Mr. Peter Obi to move.
Well, this is more than 1 year after the election. And the election was, full of a lot of ups and downs. Just like every other election we have had since the 1950s. So I think more than 1 year after the election, we should look forward instead of looking backward. Mr. Peter Obi tried. He came into that race few months before the election, and he was able to make striking impact, winning Plateau State, in Abuja, having some, high percentage, even winning Lagos, So I think he really made a mark. But the reality of the issue is that there is a Supreme Court judgment on this case, and I think that is final. Not because we cannot dispute it, but we cannot dispute it because it is final. It is a final judgment. So I think we have to move forward. And in reality, for me, I think, you see, a part can never be greater than the whole. Whether you are talking about Labour Party and all that, Mr. Peter Obi came in from PDP. So Atiku's party, Mr. Obi's party was one party, PDP, that divided itself into two because of internal dispute between the two of them. So there was no way the PDP would have divided itself into two and expected to have defeated one party that had no division within the party itself. So, and if you look at the spread of the voting pattern of APC, it's easy for you to say, oh, it was rigged and all that, but look at Lagos. The home of the current president was lost, to Labour Party. Look at Osun State was lost to PDP. And many other states in North where they were considered it as a stronghold of APC. So I think for now, it will be a fleeting illusion for anybody to see is talking about what has happened over 1 year, that there is a final judgment on it. So I would advise that politicians should look forward and look towards 2027, where there will be another opportunity to contest the election. So I think I agree with the Middle-Belt Pan Nigerian Forum that Mr. Peter Obi should realize that the cat is out of the bag, and there's no point shutting the bag any longer. So he should hold on to his own fate. He's not the first person to have lost an election in Nigeria. We already contested 3 times and lost. And even there are people who never contested. I'm sure that even President Tinubu would have wished to have contested in the past years. Do you know that, whether we like it or not, for 8 years, the current president was isolated by his own party? That is the truth. But he bided his time. He was not coming up to attack the president or attack the party. For me, I will even say that the 8 years rulership was more or less like CPC ruling the country, not the... Because it was a formation of different parties. But a section of that coalition took over the party. They didn't conduct the primaries. The convention in the APC because of one person. But he kept quiet. He waited like a lion. And when it was his time to strike, he struck. For 8 years, patience, perseverance saw him through. Even when the election, the primaries, after the election, people were still saying that, look, will not be within the party itself. So We need to learn to be patient, to persevere, and to wait for our appointed time. If we fight at the wrong time, we are going to lose out.
All right, so I read an article titled Tears of Bad Losers, which captures the essence of this as desperation by politicians to capture power. And when they lose, they do everything to undermine the country's institutions.
Yes. Every time the military struck in Nigeria, it was with the connivance of some politicians.
Yeah.
Yes, politicians who push the military, come and take power, this is wrong, this is bad, this is this. And there are some people who are naturally bad losers. When they talk about the presidential election being the worst in Nigerian history, I shake my head that, what has gone wrong with these people? What are you talking about? How many elections have you seen? Children who were not born before 1983 telling me that this last election was the worst in history. What are you talking about? Why are you telling stories that you know next to nothing about? That last election, APC, 12 states, that presidential election is one of the finest that I've ever seen in my adult life. And I will explain. APC lost 12 states that it had governors in. They should tell us any time in Nigerian history when that happened.
It's never happened.
It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. If you were told that Ashwaju will lose Lagos, you wouldn't believe. Now you say, somebody who has been governor here, his party is in power, they have the resources, they have everything. If the PDP is not strong here, but it will be one here. Because there were some dynamics, there were some fundamentals that people didn't bear in mind. That election, religion was an issue. And it helped Peter Obi significantly. He can't deny it. Just the same way he has failed to prove that he didn't do that phone call. He threatened, there was a lot of huffing and puffing, but in the end, it was all impotent huffing and puffing. He didn't try to go to court, despite the threat that he issued, because he knew he made that call. So, in the states that Ashwaju didn't win, especially in the Far North, he struggled to come second. Sometimes they close second. The sitting president lost his state. That's Buhari. Buhari lost. Buhari could not deliver Katsina to Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The only reason Ashwaju was not defeated in this election is the disunity within the PDP itself. Kwankwaso was in the PDP because of a mere ESCO seat. They fought him and they made him leave the party. He left the party. He won in Kano by a huge landslide. PDP was the biggest loser in Kano because PDP came a distant third. And I can tell you the votes that Ashwaju got in Kano, the margin of his, the gap he gave Atiku in Kano is one big reason he defeated Atiku. Because that gap was in excess of 300,000. There is nowhere else in the north that Ashwaju was able to win by that margin. Everywhere I defeated Atiku in the north was usually a close distance. So, but that gap that I gave Atiku in Kano, Atiku could not make it up in the states that he even won. There are little facts about this election that should tell people that that presidential election of 2023, despite the fact that the IRF didn't work, is the best that I've seen since June 12th. For a ruling party to lose 12 of the states that it controlled, they should tell me any time in our history when that happened. Well, we are historians. We don't just read stuff. We are historians. We analyze history. It's unparalleled. But people like Peter Obi, I know that Peter Obi needs to be relevant. He's constantly trying to be in the news because he has his eyes on the next election. But the truth is, an election has taken place. Peter Obi and his deputy, Baba Ahmed, must reconcile themselves to that reality that they can't change, that they lost that election, and the man who won that election did not win because of rigging. He won because Nigerians voted for him. That's the fact. When you were winning in Lagos, you didn't complain. In his state, Lagos. When you were winning in Osun, you didn't complain. It is when you lose that you will say, oh, that place was rigged. You will not admit that rigging took place in the places where you won with cricket scores. Cricket margins. You were beating people with cricket margins. You didn't admit that there was rigging. We won't have a perfect election. We have not reached that point. But the election of 2020, the presidential election, is even better than the governorship election in terms of the way the election went.
So, Biko, I think a typical Nigerian politician understands that no election is perfect across the world. But why do they always choose INEC as the easiest prey?
Yeah, because they will pick INEC because INEC is the arbiter. INEC didn't announce them as the winner of the election. You saw during the collation of results where a senator claimed that the result from was it Ondo or Ekiti was higher than number of registered voters, and they said this is the result that we have. It was not even up to the. So where did you get your facts from? So that is the thing. This debate will go on until the next election. So the people don't want to admit, they believe that by admitting that they were beaten, that they will have committed class suicide or whatever it is, political suicide. It's better for them to say, no, we are the winners. I've had that to say that Labour Party was ahead, and I'm like, oh, what joke can be bigger than this? How could Labour Party have won the election without the dominant Muslim vote? There was no state in Nigeria dominated by Muslim that the Labour Party won. How are you going to be president? The places where you won are places where Christians are a majority. Show me any state won by PDP, Labour that Christians were not in majority. No one. No one. In Lagos, Christians are a majority here. I can prove it. And they won here. In Osogbo, in Osun State, Muslims are a majority. In fact, Osun has the highest percentage of Muslim of all the southern states. It's Osun dominated by a lot of, and Osun has more urban centers than any state in Nigeria. That's another fact. More urban centers than any state in Nigeria. And a lot of those urban centers are Muslim dominated. There's nowhere, and in such a state, they came third. Once there is a dominant, even their best performance, the Labour Party's best performance during their presidential election in the north, in the far north, was in Kaduna State, and it was 21%. Because the Christian, Kaduna South, there are very many Christians. So they gave him block votes. So this is the facts. All right.
Abike, you've already said that not moving on, politicians not moving on most times is intentional and ahead of 2027.
Yeah, you have to be relevant.
I hope it works for...
You have to be relevant. I don't blame him for trying to stay in the news, to stay relevant. And you don't expect him to come out and say, I lost No, you will not.
All right.
He won't
Gentlemen,
say that.
let's go on a break, and when we come back, we will continue.